Ciao, Paisans. Welcome back to another wonderful episode of Calcio Culture. We're coming at you hot with Matchweek 2 coverage. Ton of storylines to cover. Milan picks up their first points of the season against Lecce. Bologna show they're picking up right where they left off with a big win at home this past weekend. Juve, Napoli, Roma doing their best to beat triplets this week and continue their solid starts with 1-0 victories. While on the other hand, Atalanta, Fiorentina, and Inter all drop points. And to round it all off, Lazio belt to ass in the capital against the lovers of Verona. A beautiful match week 2 coverage here. I am your host today, Logs. I'm here with both my co-hosts, Mats and Bose. The transfer market, boys, is officially closed as of this afternoon. We are recording on Monday the 1st. League table predictions coming in hot next week. But Mats, one big headline from the transfer window that you need to cover, that you need to vent about.
Yes. Went to bed late last night with the news that the Kolo Muani deal to Juventus might be falling through due to a sorry excuse for a club, PSG, wanting an obligation to buy.
The Champions League winners.
They will exit. They won't make it to the knockout stage this year or the playoff stage.
Cursed.
But they wanted an obligation to buy. Juventus was doing an option to buy, and PSG, I don't even want to say their names anymore. I'll just say the club with no name basically said it's got to be an obligation. That's the only way we'll let him go. So Juventus then pivoted, and I woke up in the morning to the club with no name accepting a dry loan for $5 million for Kolo Muani to Tottenham. So I woke up pretty pissed off because we offered an obligation to buy at $55 million and a loan on $5 million. So much better than what Tottenham offered. I don't know why or how or what happened in the negotiations that made it happen. Very, very upset. I loved Kolo Muani. He wanted Juventus. It came down to the last day, and he was either don't play, sit on PSG's bench, or go play somewhere else. So he did what he had to do. This was not on Comoli or Juventus. They did what they had to do. They offered it. This was strictly on the club with no name. Absolutely disgusting negotiations from them. Just disgusting club overall. I hate them. I'm very upset that one of my favorite players, Cavada, is now on that team. Just a pitiful, pitiful excuse for a club, and just terrible, awful. Hate them.
It is pretty rude what they did to you guys, I will say. Thomas Frank must have done something behind the scenes that Tudor was simply not willing to do, because they did have a better offer from Juve. So it's unfortunate, but you did get some business done bringing in Loic Openda. We'll definitely cover that in the coming weeks.
I'd also say that if for my Game of Thrones fans out there, I now have a list like Arya, and it is everybody on the PS or on the club with no names front management that is on my list. That we'll see what happens to those guys, because it's on my list.
They got to be on high alert, security all over the place in Paris. But thank you, Mats. Sorry to hear that your transfer window did not go the way you wanted. Sometimes we can't get everything that we want. You're talking to the guy that got nothing that he wanted. So in any case, moving on to a couple of big Paisano shoutouts. Vos, line them up.
Yeah, first one, I don't know what happened. Maybe the comment disappeared, but somebody did comment on our Spotify. The username Amir Lamped. I mean, it could be nothing. It could be a bunch of random letters, but you're getting your full pronunciation. Took a shot at Logue's take on Milan, saying they could blow the doors off of Torino. He then took it down. If you're going to post, leave it up. I love the comments. Definitely chirp. Love everything. So if you're going to post, guys, just leave it up. Like, we don't care. We want to hear people's opinions. But Logues is marking down a specific date as a result of the comment that no longer exists.
Amir, my only response to your now ghost comment is I'll see you December 7th when Milan wins 6-0 against Torino. You heard it here first. We'll see you then.
Put a jersey on it easily. I will be taking Milan.
There's a kid. Amir, if you reach out, there's a kid on this one.
Yeah, then last Paisano shout, I'm going to hand it over to Mats. This is a really positive one. We're super happy about this. So big shout out here.
Yeah, this is a great comment here from coming in on YouTube from Michael W27. Basically just said, found the podcast, subscribed immediately, lifelong soccer fan. Am a Prem fan, mostly or supporting Liverpool because that's where his parents are from, but found the Serie A and he loves it, and he's going to be supporting Juve. So come join the bandwagon. And just for an explanation of the comment that I left you, we us to have a friend of the pod. His name is
There's
Potts.
three of us.
Or us three. Yeah, my bad. Us three have a friend of the pod. His name is Potts. He's one of the biggest Liverpool fans around. And I tend to just he's so big that I just jump on the bandwagon with him. And he jumps on the Juventus bandwagon as well. So we have combined the two names of Liverpool and Juventus to be Juvepool. So Michael, come join Juvepool with me and Potts. It's a squad of 3. We welcome everybody. So happy to have you. And welcome to Juvepool officially, Michael W27.
Juvepool runs deep. Love it.
We
Paisans,
have
listen.
Chiesa, and you guys, Chiesa was on Juventus,
true.
now
Big
he's
pipeline.
on Liverpool.
Big pipeline. Paisans, listen, whether it's shots, praise, comments, likes, subscribes, we want it all. We appreciate all the interaction these past couple of weeks. Before we get into it, you guys know where to find us on all the socials, at X, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, at Calcio Culture FC. Comment, subscribe, 5 stars, please, and thank you. And you can find us on all your streaming sites for podcasts, Spotify, and Apple Pods. And with that, Bose, it's all you.
Match week number 2. Calcio is on all the time right now. I'm loving it. I've watched a shitload of games, but we do have an international break coming up, unfortunately.
Give us a little taste. They gave us the tip, and then they said, nope,
just the tip.
I know, this sucks. They do this every year now. But first game we got to start with. I think it's unquestionable, kind of the headline coming out of this weekend. Inter Milan dropping points at home to Udinese. They lose this game 2-1. Game goes. Denzel Dumfries gets the opener, then gives away a penalty about 5 minutes later. I think maybe less than that. Kenan Davies then converts that. And then Udinese top it off with a goal from Arthur Atta. Electric goal. Cuts in, delivers a curler to the far post. My big takeaway from this one immediately is Udinese are a lot better than I expected. I think they had a lot of good players on the field, particularly in the front line. And then I think everybody saw how good the center backs were in this game. From an Inter Milan perspective, though, that's really what we got to talk about this from. For me, it looked a lot like what we saw last year. Kind of questionable defense, questionable mentality. Are they going to be that team that can be 100% focused every game for 90 minutes? Because we didn't see that last year. And we saw that kind of frailty in defense where they would switch off for a second and then get burned. And the other thing on this is, once again, the goal's not coming from Bastoni's side. It's coming from the other side. And we saw some pretty pitiful defending from Bissek and Acerbi, who were the center back and right center back. And then what I did like, I will say, is Christian Kivu really went for it. He went 4-2-4 basically with 15 minutes to go. Had 4 true forwards on the field at all times. But at the end of the day, they didn't create all that many opportunities and really couldn't go get it done. So my question to you guys, are we going to see the same Inter we saw last year, who on any given week, they can put up that 5-0 performance, and then maybe they'll come back, switch off, and we don't really know what we're going to get? Or are we going to see a team that can go and win the Scudetto? Because this is really similar to what we saw last year.
Yeah, from my perspective, and Inter comes in second last year, and easily with a couple of different results and a little bit of a concentration fix, they are for sure top of the table. I think that it's going to be the same story where they have a slow start here and they get it going. What I will say from my perspective that really grinds my gears, really pisses me off, is that when you have this result from Milan, the world crumbles. The world goes to shit. We're going to get relegated, this, that, the other thing. To Inter's credit, the way they lost this game and to the way Kivu went after it was adamant about getting a point at least out of this game. They really, really were aggressive, and they showed that they had the ability to get after it. Unfortunately, didn't get that second goal, but I think they had ample opportunities to do so, and they weren't afraid to do it. I think that there was a hunger about this team that it was so blatant in that second half that you wouldn't see it of other teams, and why I'm not totally concerned about this result. And as you said, I think Udinese is a lot stronger than what we had first thought. Again, a weird result last week against Verona. I don't think Verona should have had any chance in that game based off their latest result. But this Inter team is going to be fine. This Inter team is rather strong, and they did just pick up what we'll talk about in the next episode in a big center back in Akanji. So if anything, the idea that Acerbi is slowing down was just completely fixed by the buy of Akanji. So from my perspective, again, Inter will be fine.
Listen, it's match week 2. Obviously, there's a big overreaction match week 1 with Inter. There's going to be a big overreaction match week 2 with the loss. Serie A doesn't necessarily start till 10 matches in, like I always say. But this is kind of what I thought was going to happen. I'm not surprised about this result at all. Kivu is a new manager. He might not have been ready to take the step up to a club like Inter that is required to win every single game and fight for all 3 trophies. We saw it last year with Mata on Juventus. He wasn't necessarily ready to take that step, and I think Mata was far more accomplished than Christian Kivu has ever been. I'm not shocked that this happened. I do like that, like you said, Vos, he really went for it, but that could have blew up in his face even worse if Udinese did end up scoring a second goal. And then now you're talking, especially it's big with the international break right now. So like you're left with a loss in your mouth. Like that's the last thing that you remember. So that's big because it's like, oh, we left off on a loss. You can't really right the ship quick. You can't really forget about it. Like we're going to be sitting here for 2 weeks thinking about this. So that's a little frustrating there, but I'm not surprised by this result. I said it in the beginning of the season. I think that their defense is lacking. Yes, like to Logue's points, they did get a really good name who I'm very high on to kind of replace Acerbi. But it's exactly like I said last week, Bose. Acerbi played great last week, but that is what you don't want because you think he's going to be fine every game, and he looked super slow. Bissick did not close down that shot at all. Listen, it was a great shot, great finish. Close him down. You gave him all the time in the world. Acerbi backed off. So, yeah, I think there's a lot of question marks. I think Inzaghi, they're playing the same style of soccer, 3-5-2, but it's different. And I think that under Kivu, some players might take a step back. So I'm not shocked at all that this happened.
Yeah, and the notable change in this one from last week that I will say is Hakan Çalhanoğlu was back. Sobarella was back in his normal right center mid. Sujic was the left center mid, and then Hakan was kind of the deep lying 6. We had a pretty bad game overall. Shouldn't really get going. But look, you just wanted to jump in really quick.
No, I just wanted to point out, and Tomat's saying that we talked about this last week. I pointed it out, and I think we can all agree that Torino was incredibly poor last week, and that kind of that was the reason for a 5-0 win. Inter is not always going to be putting in 5 goals a week. Granted, DeMarco had one taken back on a very small offsides on Thuram. So they had their chances, but again, this isn't going to be a 5-0 win every single week for Inter. That Torino squad kind of boosted them up a bit there. And so Inter will have to get their shit together early on in games for them to pull out 3 points week in and week out.
Yeah, quick question from a personal standpoint, guys. Because they did bring in Akanji, and you guys think that he replaces Acerbi maybe? Sure. I don't know about that. I kind of see him getting pushed to right center back and replacing Bissick personally. Because I think as a club, they're going to stick with Acerbi there. And I think regardless, I think Bissick's kind of a liability right now. It's still like I have this faith that he's going to get better, but I haven't really seen it. So I think Akanji does plug one of the holes, but then you ship Pavard out the other way, who's kind of the other one that, that made no sense to me. Because Pavard right now on this team is the second best center back probably, pre-Akanji. But I think even with that, you don't really fix the issue. You plug one of the holes, but it's still there in my mind.
I feel better about Akanji starting over Acerbi and having DeVry and Bissick rotate on the right side. Like you said, I think sending out Pavard was such a crazy move considering what your backline could have been if you just kept him and brought in Akanji at the same time. I don't know why they were one and the other, not both. But no, I think Acerbi is very quickly showing that he's much too old to be playing in this roster in this level. I can see him playing against a SAS or against a Verona, which is totally fine. But once you get to Champions League, that guy should not be seeing the pitch unless you have him on assignment, which we know he's very good at. But in a general center back sense, I'd rather have Akanji take his spot over and have that Bissick DeVry combination on the right.
I'm in agreement. I didn't understand it. They would have, to me, if they kept Pavard and they got Akanji, they are now realistically challenging Napoli for winning the Scudetto with that strong of a defense and having Bissick, DeVry, and Acerbi all as rotational pieces. But now they're just in the same exact situation that they were in without Akanji, like literally the same exact situation. And Bissek, he's got the physicals to be one of the best center backs in this league. He got a high bid from Crystal Palace. I think it was like 35 or 40 million. His potential is massive, but every time he's out there, he kind of loses his head and causes a lot of dropped points for Inter. And if you're going to have that, you can't play him. I remember Inzaghi benched him for a large part of last season because of those mental lapses. So you can't have that, but I understand why you play him because of his large potential there. But we'll see what happens. But they just shifted the depth problem, right? Even if, let's say, Acerbi moves to right center back, then they're still at the center back problem. If he goes to center back, then the right center back is now kind of weak.
Definitely an issue. And then the other thing that I kind of thought about in this game, just quickly on this one, in a game like this where Udinese was up and they sat very low, they're very organized and they were sitting back defensively. Is this why they wanted to go and get a Lookman? Because they don't really have a guy that can go take people on 1v1. Because Thuram is more of like a transitional player. Lautaro is also like a transitional player. And you have a lot of guys that are good on getting at the end of crosses in the box and progressing play very quickly. But they don't really have a guy that's going to really like take a couple guys on, get in the box, draw a penalty, maybe get a shot off. So that could be a thing again, too. I mean, in some of these games, Inter's going to be in games like this a lot. And probably most of the time, they'll get that goal off of a cross. But a Lookman in here probably, not necessarily, but could get this done for you. So that's just an interesting point there.
Well, I think the fact that DeMarco was so involved on the offense until he was brought off just brings up the fact that left side needed some help in terms of the offense. And DeMarco was obviously there, but you'd rather have a full-on attacker in that position. But you'd know better, Vos, than I, just from you watching Parma last season. And I think that they brought in Boney to kind of be that guy. I think he's more of a Thuram player, but can he take on a guy? And to Matz's point that he usually brings up, and letting guys get into a game, not waiting to the 85th minute to bring them on so they get into the flow and get used to the play style there. Why are you bringing them on in the 83rd? Why are we, you're down 2-1 for a very long time. Why are we not making moves early?
Yeah, but they had gone to a 3-4-3 with P.O. Esposito. Yeah, he got his full debut and they went a full front three. So I think that was the waiting. But to your point, Logs, Boney is very similar to Thuram. It's kind of crazy how similar they are. They do almost all of the exact same things. The difference is Thuram has played off the right before. He did that at Gladbach a bunch, so he's used to playing that position. But again, they can take on a guy, but that's not what they're gonna go do.
I also say that Thuram isn't that effective when he's pushed further out wide, like we saw him in France when he's with Mbappe. He doesn't do that well there. But I thought Boney did well when he came in, but he played left wing, which also is not his natural spot. So you really don't have a wide guy, especially off the left, to come in because their backup is Carlos Augusto off the left wing back, who's more of a defensive substitution. So it's really who do you have off that left that can go create something or take on a man, like you said, Bo. So I do think that was a very good point, and I understand why Inter moved on from Lookman because they felt like their bid was fair and Atalanta said no, but then they didn't pivot to another profile like a Lookman. They then pivoted to possibly a Kone, didn't get him, and then they just were like, all right, we're all set actually. We don't need anybody. And I think that that's a very good point, that having a Lookman there to sub in the 60th minute or even start, who's always looking to attack and kind of be selfish, like I said earlier in the year, would have definitely helped in this situation of this game.
Cool. Quickly on Udinese, because I think we have to shout them out because that was a great game by them. Took their chances, phenomenal defensive performance. It's going to be a very hard team to break down throughout the season. I think their offense is going to be dangerous, and Kenan Davies, Atta now, really handful kind of guys that you're going to struggle to deal with. And then from a center back perspective, Soleil and Christensen both have shout outs for player of the week. They were phenomenal back there. Both had lights out performances. So good things to start from an Udinese team. I'm not sure they're necessarily going to break through that 12, 11, 10 spot, but they're securely in there because a couple of years ago they were in that relegation battle, and it's looking like they're just going to be a solid team, horrible to play against all season long.
Yeah, I mean, listen, them keeping their center back, because he was highly sought after. Solet is very big. He was balling. He's offensive. He can progress the ball as well. Christensen was all over the pitch, blocking shots, stopping shots, and then they're good on the counter. So you don't want to kind of do what Inter did this game and get down early to Udinese, because it's going to be tough to break them down.
Perfect. All right, moving on. At Genoa, Mats, you've been waiting for this moment. I'm going to hand it over to you. Our first discussion of Juve on the season. And I'm pretty hot on them, but I'll let you take over here.
Yeah, this was an absolute battle on the pitch. It was World War III, fouls all over the place. But I really, really liked what I saw from Juventus in terms of the grit and the determination that they had this game. And I think that that is a clear reflection of one man, and that's Tudor. I think last season under Mata, we tied this game. Genoa were pressing the shit out of us. They smothered Yildiz. They triple teamed him so he couldn't go one-on-one and kind of create. And they absolutely pressed the crap out of us from the forwards and the midfielders, especially because they know that our center backs aren't necessarily the greatest on the ball with Kelly, Bremer, and Gatti back there. So there was definitely a good game plan by Genoa. But I think Tudor's mindset of the players was, we're going to keep at it. We're going to stay in this game just as hard as they're pressing. We're going to press them as well. And it paid off. Big substitution from Dusan Vlahovic. Second goal off of a corner kick, starting off hot, kind of proving to the Juventus fan base that I should be kept. I don't want to read too much into that because he always starts his seasons off very hot and then he cools down. But listen, definitely a good player to bring in off the bench. So whether he's starting or whether he's on the bench, like bringing on either Dusan or Jonathan David is really going to help us in the this season. And then one last player I want to highlight is Bremer. He's just an absolute beast. It's Bremer and Di Gregoria. They are very good together. Bremer, we forget how good this man is. He is a beast in the air. You will not win an aerial duel over Bremer. He's a beast on a man-to-man marking. He has great anticipation. And people forget when Bremer was healthy last year, we had I think it was 8 clean sheets in a row. We're starting off again with 2 clean sheets with Bremer. So I liked a lot from what I saw from this Juventus. I like the fight, the grit, and this is a game we would have tied last year, and we won it. So that's good, and we are obviously 2-0 now. So good start to the season.
I think one of the things that you said that is important, when you look at this Juventus team now, they have gotten very deep. You look at guys that came off the bench. I know Kostic hasn't been everybody's favorite player, but that's a guy that's been around and is good at one thing in particular and crossing the ball, and he did take the corner kick that led to the goal. You have Dusan Vlahovic come off the bench, who is the guy that is going to get on the end of said crosses. 2 Coop Miners, Weston McKennie, and that's not even including the guys that were out of this game. Moretti, Cabal, Cambiasso. There are a lot of dangerous players that are very good on this team, and they're going to be a handful. I do feel really good about them this season.
The biggest thing for me was, and it's almost like a tale of two sides, because I thought the left side of Juve, and Mats has touched on this before, especially being Yildiz's side, was phenomenal. I thought that João Mario and when Kostic came in were incredibly dangerous, breaking the press and being able to alleviate that pressure that Genoa was pretty successfully putting on in the first half. I would say second half was a different story. And just the progression of the ball from that side, including Thuram, which we've noted before, incredibly progressive, very good at kind of just attacking space with the ball, which allows him to break those lines quite easily. I thought the right side had a lot to be desired, especially between Kalulu being the wing back over there, who looked very uncomfortable playing that high up. I've seen him play him before, especially for the younger teams of the France national team. But I think that him and Conceição were simply not the pairing on that side, which just led to the overload on the left. One thing I will say, though, the decision-making in the final third on a couple of occasions was pretty bad. And I think Juve could have had two more goals in this game if they had just made a better last second decision, whether it be Thuram attacking the box or Yildiz passing the ball across. I think there was just a couple of things where a little bit of a tweak and you're up. This is a 3-0 game and Juve wins it handedly. But I think that the point of Kostic for me, he's been on the outs and loaned out last year because he's been so undesired. I still think he's got a lot to add, and especially if you're just playing him as a backup, there's nothing wrong with having him on that roster. And what Juve just brought in up top gives them so much more creativity, so many more options. And if Dusan's playing the way that he's playing and kept his roster spot after almost being shipped out, that could be dangerous. That's something to watch.
Yeah, I definitely agree that Juventus could have won this game a little bit more handily. Jonathan David missed a sitter off of a rebound that he should definitely finish. He's struggled in terms of like the physicality or like the close-knit defending in the Serie A in his first 2 games. So we'll have to see how
that's kind of what I expected out of him. Like he's kind of like a incomplete version of Randall Colomwani, really. Like he does the athletic piece of Colomwani's game well, but he doesn't do like the hold up playing link up as well, I would say.
They should have just got Colo, bro. And solved all their problems.
Oh, listen, he's going to grow into the league. I think he's got to lose a little bit of weight. He looks a little pudgy out there
That's
well.
Never good. Juve is horrible at dealing with that. I've always said that.
But yeah, I mean, was it the best game ever? No. Did we see flashes of what they can be? Yes, I did. Kostic on the corner kick is smart. I've been screaming for him when he's on the team to take our corner kicks since 2-3 seasons ago. That was our first corner kick goal since like 2 years. That's embarrassing. But listen, we got some depth now after the transfer market to make the right-hand side of the pitch stronger, because in reality, João Mario is going to play it at right wing back with now Zagrova or Conceição and then Cambiaso and Yildiz on the left, which makes it a handful going up in attack, lacking slightly defensively, but yeah, we have some depth that we've added. We have some players that can score goals. So I think that's kind of the approach that Juventus is kind of taking this year, is like, we're going to score goals. But like I said, the main takeaway here is your team on the pitch is a screenshot or a snapshot of what your coach is. And this was a Igor Tudor game to a T. There was 15 fouls by Juventus and 14 by Genoa. There was fouls all over the place. It was a grind out game. It was a grit game. It was they're trying to get in our heads. Don't let them get in our heads, and then just battle it out, and score. And that's exactly what we did. And that's very good to see, because I'm telling you, last year this game is a draw 100% of the time.
You're definitely right. My question for you, Mats, is because I was texting about it today. I think we all know it's a pretty big season. We said Juve is going to go as this guy goes. Kenan Yildiz has been very good under Igor Tudor. And I think although like he didn't have necessarily a statistical impact in this game, he looks a little bit different in terms of more effective in the final third, more confident. What have you seen from him that has kind of elevated his game under Tudor? Because it does go back to like the Club World Cup, and now it's kind of carrying through, but he's a big one this year.
Listen, to start, he's playing every game. Mata, people don't realize Mata didn't play him that much, and Mata was like, hey, in practice, he was like, you're not Messi. And Mata also was playing him on the right, not in his natural position. So kind of goes back to what Ranieri did with Roma last year. Just simplify it. Hey, you prefer the left side? I'm going to play you there. And then Tudor, the difference between Tudor and Mata that helps Yildiz is he is so direct. He just wants to create chances to score goals. Mata is trying to pass the ball to get players to come out of position to exploit mistakes. Tudor is like, go take on your man, beat your man. That's what Yildiz specializes in, dribbling by your man, one-on-one, kind of like you said, what Inter's missing. This game specifically, Genoa absolutely threw bodies at him. So I think the additions that we have now with Zagrova and Openda are going to help, because it doesn't necessarily need to rely solely on Yildiz for the offense, because if you throw 3 bodies at him, he's not going to be able to get by those 3 guys. But that's the biggest part, is just being direct, playing him, giving him the confidence to be played game in and game out. And also, I think he's gotten a little bit stronger physically. Like, he's put some weight on so he doesn't get muscled off the ball as much as he used to when he first started. But yeah, I think those are the 3 key takeaways. And I'm excited to see his growth this year because he's going to be huge. He didn't do that much statistically, but he created a huge chance that Jonathan David just didn't finish. And Jonathan David finishes that. It's kind of like an assist because it was a shot that was a rebound. So wasn't his greatest game statistically, but just his threat on the pitch is always going to be, he had 3 guys on him. So it's always going to be there.
Yeah, and very quickly, just to give Tudor his flowers here, and I'm not going to, I don't want this to be an overreaction by any means. We still have not gotten to 3 competitions. We'll definitely change it up and see the quality of the manager that he could be. But the way that Tudor has managed Juve since taking over after Motta has shown that he's an unbelievable balance of man management and having tactics. He's got that ability, like Ranieri, like Masha said with Ranieri and Roma last year, but I think we point to Zidane and Ancelotti, who are able to just put guys where they play best and let them be them. That's what he's done exactly with Yildiz. That's what he's done with Thuram. And then on the backside of that, he's able to keep a structure, keep a little bit of a tactic on the back line and those wing backs who I think are still rather rigid, rather structured, but they know their job. So I think it's a really good balance there. And I'm excited to see what he's able to do. Again, balancing more competitions as we see this come to the Champions League season.
Sweet. Moving on, we had another kind of like a World War III. I like the way you described that game. Very similar one in Bologna. We had Como visiting Bologna. This game ended 1-0, courtesy of a Riccardo Orsolini goal, assisted by Santiago Castro, who got the start off of a Ciro Immobile injury. It was kind of an interesting one there, how the game started. But how this game went, this was a really exciting 1-0 game. Como held the ball. I think they had like 65% possession is kind of what the stat says. But basically, they were just passing the ball around in their defensive third for the majority of the game and just could not find a way through the Bologna press. And Bologna was pressing wicked high up the field the entire game and basically forcing them to just play long if they did break that first line of defense. And then on the flip side of things, from a Bologna offensive perspective, this is the second game in a row where they were comfortable not with the ball and were more willing to take risks on the ball and kind of play direct. The goal came from a ball from Lukumi into the channel to Castro, and then Castro slotting one across to Orsolini. So maybe we're looking at an evolution in Italiano. I don't know. We're only 2 games in. Against Roma, they had like 50% possession, and they did play kind of that direct long ball. So this is what I'm watching for the rest of the season, because if Italiano can kind of change this team a little bit to be more risk-taking in some games like this, where like last year, this is one that I would think 0-0, 100%. Italiano just holds the ball and nothing happens. But it's kind of this risk-taking, and adding Cambiaghi to replace Ndoye looks like it's going to work really well. It's a really direct player. He had a big impact in this game. And then Zortea coming in, and the team's getting deeper. I like what they're doing. I have a lot of confidence in this team. Beating Como is kind of a big deal now. We can't look at Como as just like a team like, oh, you got to go get the dub against them. This is a big game for them, and this is coming off of a 1-0 loss at Roma. So I think it's a good start to the season, no matter how you slice it. And I think a lot of players are looking like they're going to queue up big seasons here.
I don't know if this is Italiano really changing it for the whole season. I will say that I think Roma is 100% very comfortable having possession and being aggressive. And I think Como is the same way. They, running it through Nico Paz is something that they're going to do, and they're never going to stray away from that. And so they want to have the ball. But I think that their just defensive solidity is one thing that can't go unnoticed. And the fact that we talk about how much that they've been broken up in the back line, and Bukma, whatever his fucking name is, was certainly a big part of that. Lukumi did not start. And so you look at bringing in 2 other center backs here that really held it down. That's a good start. You look at Duvicas and you look at Morata. Morata, obviously not that good. We know this, but a good backup in this league. And Duvicas has really shown that he's a quality striker. 0 shots from both of those 9s through the whole game. I just think you have to point to that fact as something that is going to help them for sure down the line.
Yeah, listen, that's a great shout, because this is today, or this past match week, they were 2 different center back pairing, right? Like last season, Bologna had Lukumi and Sam Bukama back there every game, and you have a different center back pairing. Like it's big. Like, and that was every game. Those two were the first names on the team sheet. So that was big, and they held it down, a clean sheet. It looks like they kept Lukumi, which is amazing for them. He really wanted to push his way out, but now that the window's closed, he'll definitely retake his spot and hopefully find the form of last year. But for me, this game came down to Orsolini. He has at the later half of last season, when he was scoring like a goal every single game and would go up to the camera and knock on it to say, "Hey, Spalletti, why haven't you called me up?" He has taken a legitimate step in his career. He is one of, if not the best wingers in the league. He does it at consistent game in and game out. He creates a ton of chances. He scored in this game. He can, if you guard him one-on-one, he's beating his man every time, and he's Iron Robin. He wants to go left. He's going to go left. You're not going to stop him, and he's going to try to score. And he's, in my opinion, he's taken a large step. He should be a auto lock every single international call up for Italy because of the form that he's had. And if he can continue to do this, Bologna are going to be a hard team to beat. He's going to have to do it, though, too, because losing in Doin is definitely a large hole to fill. But he had the mentality of, I'm going to take this game to Como. I'm going to score. Every time he got the ball, he was trying to be his man. So that was nice to see. He's definitely taken a step in my eyes.
Yeah, from a Como perspective, I think you kind of look at it the same way as Bologna last week. You go to Bologna, you lose 1-0. It just didn't go their way. I mean, this is when you play this kind of football where you're trying to build from the back, you're sometimes going to run into teams that just press you and beat you with the press, and that's really what happened. The big takeaway for me in this game was their new center back, Jacobo Ramon. Looks like he's going to be really good. That is a guy to watch, really good on the ball, really tall, really athletic. But other than that, nothing. I don't think there's any new news with Como from this one. They just couldn't go and get it done. I think they came up against a team that had a plan and executed the plan better than them, realistically.
Ramon came from Real, didn't he?
Yeah, another one of those Real Madrid academy guys.
Yeah, he actually got some decent playing time for the first team last year for Real just because of their injury woes. And he really showed out. He's got actually Champions League experience at this point. So it'll be interesting to see if he really comes into his own, similar to how Nico Paz has under Czech. So it might be Como might just be for Spanish players.
A new recipe for success. Like there are not a lot
like
of
a Dortmund situation.
Yeah, it is similar to that, I would say. Yeah,
because and they also brought in Alex Jimenez from Milan, another really talented young Spanish player. So that
I thought he went to Bournemouth.
Yeah, he did. He did fall through. He went to Bologna.
I thought he went to Como. He was linked to Como.
I think the interesting thing about Como, as opposed to Dortmund, they're in a better position to keep their players, I think. I mean, they're getting a new stadium very soon. Like, this is like, why wouldn't you stay?
They have to make the jump. Yeah. They definitely have to make the jump in order to do it. But it's an attractive project for sure. But what I would say about Como is, like, they bought a ton of players. It's going to take a little while to gel. You were at Bologna, not an easy place to win. You played a good game. So I wouldn't, it's not the end all be all to Como. Obviously, it's match week 2. They're missing one of their best players last year in Asendiao, lightning quick off the left
missing
there.
Right now.
So they played very well. They're going to continue to play well. They have absolute lightning in a bottle with these young players. They're going to be a tough out game in and game out. Bologna just got it done this game, but Como didn't look bad at all, in my opinion. And they're going to play well. They're just going to need a couple games to gel with all these new players.
Definitely.
All my boys love Como.
Keeping it rolling to another team that Logs loves. Milan. Get off the line. Took up 2 games. They win this one 2-0, courtesy of goals from Ruben Loftus-Cheek and Christian Pulisic. Notably, we had 2 goals called back. Gabia in like the 3rd minute on a corner kick, and then Ruben Loftus-Cheek had another one called off for an offsides, I think. And then Santi Jimenez had one called off. Yeah, and I think Ruben did too. There may have been 3 goals pulled back. But Lokes, how do you feel after this one? Because for me, it kind of looked the same as Cremonese. It just the result went the other way.
Just went differently. Yeah. No, I agree. I think, and before I get into it, and I'll try to keep it short because I know I babble about Milan, but that's just my job. No Leao, Pulisic not totally fit. Who else was not in this lineup? Obviously, Jashari the day before gets taken out by none other than Santi Jimenez. in practice. He's going to be out between 3 and 9 months. I don't know how quickly a fibula gets back together, but that thing is broken in half.
That's a
right now.
crazy timeline.
Yeah. And so, again, not our full lineup, and we did have some pretty big business in the last couple of days that weren't included in the lineup. So in any case, not the full team here. But again, the first half was very much the same as Cremonese, slow. Just shout out to Modric, and I know Mats is going to get into this at some point, but this man put in an absolute shift. Full 90, ran probably a full marathon, 26.2 miles, because he had to cover not only the Regista spot, but again, 2 games in a row now where he's playing all 3 center backs when we're in possession, because we do not have a single center back starting right now that is able to pass or dribble. They can only defend, and when they get on the ball, they freak out like they're playing kindergarten kickers, and it's straight up the pitch. In any case, I think in the second half, we were able to create more chances. I want to give my praise to Santi Jimenez because it was an absolute act of terrorism that Tare did to this man before the game. Tare at his presser comes out and basically says that we're very interested in Artem Dovbyk of Roma, that we would be very open and interested to swapping him with Santi Jimenez. And if it didn't go through, then we'll just keep the roster we have. But to have that and I talk about this a lot, the 9, the striker, is probably one of the biggest mental positions on the pitch. And when you take that confidence away from him, which has already been taken away from him just by the fact that we were scratching and clawing to get a 9. 9's harder from Sporting, Vlahovic from Juve. I mean, it was coming left and right. And Santi has gone through a tough summer here. Rightfully so, a little bit of some poor performances on the pitch, of course, some really bad misses, especially in this game. A bunch of offsides called. I'm still ready for him to take back the form that he had at Feyenoord, but he is our 9. The window is closed. I'm happy to just be supportive of him and get him back into form, because if he picks up where he left off from Feyenoord and Leao comes back and he's healthy, and we have Pulisic, who scored a goal here off the bench even though he wasn't totally fit, and then we have Nkunku, who we just signed for 38 million euro, coming in and getting the form back that he had from Leipzig a couple of years ago, which people don't remember. But Nkunku, before going to Chelsea, was phenomenal at all 4 positions up front for Leipzig. This team could come to form. I'm still incredibly nervous with the back line selection. We signed some guy from Wolfsburg, who I watched a couple of highlights today, can pass and can dribble, so definitely a step up from what we have at center back now.
He's played like 3 games.
He's only played 11 games less than Leone, and he's the same age, so I don't know why everyone's freaking out. But in any case, no, the back line is definitely something to watch here. But the midfield, Modric played incredibly well. Again, looking like he still has legs, and in 1 game a week, he'll be totally fine. I would have liked to see Ricci a little earlier in this game. And one thing that I will say about Allegri is that I don't understand why he continues to play Ricci not in the Regista. I know Modric is very comfortable there and he was playing well, but again, we want that creativity from Modric, and Ricci just wants to play low. Ricci came in and played at that 8 spot, kind of where Loftus-Cheek had been or was at the same time. So we'll see how that works out. Fofana probably shouldn't see the pitch for the rest of the season the way he's playing. But that's all.
They just brought in his replacement, so you're
his
not
son.
I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to talk about it. I'm not talking about it.
I want to kick this over to Mots, because what I will say is the Pulisic goal came late. It was kind of a fluke. So this should have been really like a 1-0 game. Lecce weren't really in it. Is this not just what we're going to see every game from Allegri for the entire season? Like, don't take any risks, play defense. If we get a goal, we'll take it, kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, that's Allegri football. His tactics are from the dinosaur era. But this game was so weird because they had like 2 goals called back. They won 2-0. So if you think about it, if they're not offsides, it's 4-0. But they really didn't create a lot. The first goal from Loftus-Cheek was off of a set piece. And then like Pulisic scored also. But like they weren't like, I wasn't blown away by the way that they were playing, but they kind of did handily win this game. But then again, did they? Like, it was a lot of like, I don't understand what's happening on the pitch right now for Milan. Besides, Luka Modric is just worst class. Like, that's the only, like, I saw that, like, that was jumping off the screen. It was just Luka Modric is going to He said, "Get on my back, all 10 of you guys. Give me the ball. I'll figure it out for us." So it was just a weird game. I think, listen, Lecce, they're very, very not strong going forward. I don't know why they subbed off Camarda after 45 minutes. I think it was something to do with the contract.
He got injured.
Oh,
He took a knock to the head, and then they got him in the locker room at halftime, and he was like, "I don't remember where I just was," so they took him to the hospital.
okay. Well,
Somebody looked fine though in the first half.
We'll have to watch if he comes back.
He looked better than Santi Jimenez in the first half.
Sometimes it's not hard to look better than Santi Jimenez.
I do. The other thing about Lecce, because I don't want to spend a ton of time on them because they were not very good. The guy that came in for Camarda, the new signing, Nikola Stulic, he was good. He was a handful. He got a couple chances at kind of just creating up there by himself. That is like a very much they lost Krstovic and then just replaced him with another Krstovic kind of thing in my mind.
No, he looked decent. It'll be promising to see, and I'm definitely going to watch out for him because that's where strikers get picked off.
Yeah.
But I do think that this Lecce side should have gotten relegated last season. I think that they're in relegation watch right now for this season. So that remains to be seen. But just to round it off from Milan, I think that I'm nervous.
Also,
Not so hot.
Also,
I'm nervous.
classic Allegri just losing his mind on the side of the pitch. You guys are up like 2-0, and Musa wants to take the throw in, and he's screaming. Like, obviously, it's not over to the whistle blows, but like, Lecce's not going to score 2 goals in 4 minutes. He kicked him when he was on the ground.
Yeah, then last week he only had 2. Then he got shipped off to Atalanta.
No, he got shifted.
Yeah.
They kicked him while he was down, and then shipped him off. Unbelievable.
Yeah, but like I said, it seems to me like Milan has, and we'll go into their transfer window in another episode, but I don't know how on earth they were selling the names that they were selling for the money that they got in. That was incredible. But then the players they brought in, a lot of question marks, right? Like they did great with Nkunku and Modric and Ricci, but then Rabiot, you know, it's his son. But like the center backs, it's like I don't understand. So to me, they did a ton of moving parts, which we said last season that they needed to do, just to end up in the same exact position that they were last year with what do we have every single game. So it's kind of crazy.
Yeah, and until Leao comes back, like, we don't even know what they're going to really look like. What is their best 11? It's going to be a while before we even know that.
Yeah, I think Leao is coming back relatively soon, though, especially with this break.
And then we took him out of this one.
With the break as well. He should be back next game, I would assume. I didn't look into how severe his injury was, but I would be shocked if he's not back soon. But they got so many midfielders that I don't know who plays. Like, Jashari was like the signing of the season, and it's like almost a benefit that he got injured. So there's not like a question, who do we play today? Because we have 17 center mids.
All I'll say about the next game against Bologna is it's hilarious that we signed Rabiot because the guy that he got into an altercation with that made him leave was it Marseille?
Oh yeah,
now plays for Bologna. So both of their debuts are going to be against each other in their very first game for their new team. God. So there might be another altercation coming up. Stay tuned for that.
I cannot wait for Logan to experience this season of Allegri and his son Rabiot.
I'm not excited.
It is insane. Like, we're going to wrap up on Milan with this. It is insane that on deadline day, they went and signed Adrian Rabiot with all of the midfielders they already had.
Yeah, well, I just want to say to the Paisans that I texted our Calcio Culture group chat on May 29th when Allegri was appointed that they will get Rabiot. I knew it was going to happen, and it happened.
Inevitable.
It's
inevitable, but we had some other games that happened. Cremonese kept it rolling. They won 3-2 against Sassuolo at home in the home opener. Love that one.
Firmly in the Scudetto race.
This was a great game. Both of these teams look like they're going to be competitive this year. A lot of good players to watch. Berardi got on the score sheet for the first time, so like to see that. And Pinamonti, once again, getting on the score sheet. Good player there. In Rome, we had Lazio host Verona, who look like they might be a punching bag this year. They won 4-0, goals from Guendouzi, Zaccagni, Castellanos, and Bogliadia. And Castellanos also had a sick assist. If you haven't seen it, Rabona assist on the Zaccagni goal. That was crazy. Oh, the other thing, you had a quick stat here on my boy here, Logs. You can throw that one in there.
Yeah, player of the match, not Tati Castellanos, who had 3 goal contributions, but Nicolo Ravella, who had 1 assist. But more so than that, just to preface this stat, teams sometimes will only have 150, 175 passes for the entire 90. Nicolo Varela by himself had 105 passes completed with a 91% completion percentage and had man of the match in a game where somebody had 3 goal contributions. So unbelievable by him. That's Vos's boy, friend of the pod at this point. We all love Ravella, but what an absolute performance. Masterclass.
Listen, at this point, we have an international break coming up, and we're going to try to get an episode out before that. He, for me, should be the base of the midfield for the Azzurri at this point, and it should be Barella and Tonali ahead of him. It was kind of like maybe Ricci, but I mean, this is the guy. He's better defensively. I think he's the best defender of the midfielders that they have, like a defensive midfielder who's also capable of contributing offensively.
Yeah, it should be an easy decision for Gattuso.
I just think it comes down to the formation that they run. If it's a 2-man midfield, it's tough to play him with when you have Tonali and Barella. But if it's a 3-man midfield, I agree.
Yeah, probably every 2 minutes. Fine. Other games we had Parma lose to Atalanta. Pasalic got on the board, and then 7 minutes later in the 85th minute, new signing. Patrick Catrone still hanging around, levels it, steals some points from Atalanta. Notably in this one, there was also a Scamacca miss that he probably should have buried. But little bit rocky start for Juric here. I don't know what this season's going to look like. It might be a little bit of a mixed bag, especially if you're asking Mats. He's not too confident on this team.
I will say, though, interesting to see what happens. They were able to keep Lookman. No one bought him or paid the money that they wanted. He was like, I am not playing for this club. Obviously, now with the market closed, he probably has to play. So
he might end up in Turkey. This is what Turkey do. That their window is open.
That's
this
true.
Is like
good shout.
Textbook. He goes to Galatasaray.
Dude, if they get him, that team has Osimhen, Sane. They got Gundogan. They got a good squad over there that they're building. But I didn't think of that. But that's a good shout. If they do keep him, though, he's obviously a great player. Then their up top is going to be Lookman, Scamacca, and Charles. So like that's going to be a good front 3. But if they don't keep him or if he doesn't play, I think we're starting to see what they might look like this year.
A little bit boring.
I mean, realistically, I know that we got to move on here, but do you see Lookman playing for this squad after this saga this summer?
It was the same thing last year.
Don't.
It was the exact same thing, and he ended up playing and was really good. But I don't know. He has a better.
I don't know if Juric is going to take. I don't think Juric is going to take that shit from him, though. I mean,
he'll gladly take Lookman.
Gasparini had been dealing with him for years, but like
he will gladly take Lookman on his team. But I mean, you just look at these 2 teams that they drew 1-1 to. We're talking about Pisa and Parma here. Like
2 relegation. Like
they should have 6 points right here, and it's 1-1 draws.
Bad,
not good,
not good.
Bad. Keep it rolling. Scudetto champions, defenders. Napoli home opener. We saw KDB take his first steps at the Maradona. They won this game, 95th minute. Took a really long time. Classic Zambo and Gisa once again getting it done. And Lugs, you have something you want to point out here that you liked about this, or maybe didn't like. I don't know if you liked it.
I mean, I'm not totally in on it, but it can't be a bad thing. But they do score this 96-minute winner against a very subpar Cagliari team.
No. Cagliari is a good team.
I'm not here for it yet, but in any case, we'll see. But in Napoli, Scudetto winners from last season, Scudetto favorites for this season. Maybe not in the books, but maybe in our hearts. And they're going wild. They looked like they just won the Scudetto in this game. They did the same thing last week when Scott McTominay scored. I mean, these guys go fucking nuts every time they score. Is that good for camaraderie? Sure. Should they be celebrating like that? Probably not. I mean, they are clearly the one or two finishers here in the league, and they should be beating teams like this pretty handedly and much earlier on than the 96th minute. Good for them to celebrate. They love each other. They love the city. They love the club. They love the badge. But a little bit of an overreaction, I think, from that squad.
I mean, that's just what Antonio Conte teams do. He unites them. I'd argue it's better that way than having people pissed that they're not playing. So I'd argue it's good, and that's what Conte teams do. I want to bring up 2 things about this game. Scott McTominay in that left mid, not really left mid position this game, not good at it. did not play well at all. So we'll see what happens there because it looks different. So, because obviously De Bruyne is in the Scott role this season, but I did not think he played well at all this game. And this went to show the pure depth that Napoli have. And they subbed on Buongiorno, and he put in an incredible ball. And Zombo, right place, right time, easy tap in. But they subbed in a center back who provided the final assist in the 95th minute to show their depth in the team. We haven't even seen Vanya Milinkovic-Savic. Noah Lang has played like a total of 11 minutes so far. So we're just scratching the surface with this club, but it showed the depth for sure.
Yeah, the other thing that
and they just brought in Højlund too.
Yeah, they did just bring in Højlund. And like from a depth perspective, Anguisse could have left. And they brought in De Bruyne, and De Laurentiis could have made the decision, we'll just let him go. Keeping him, you immediately get dividends from that. Like, we all know how good Zombo is, but now having all of these guys that you can kind of like jamble together, like they're playing like a diamond right now, essentially. But you can go to a 3, you can go to a 2-man midfield. There are so many things you can do. And I mean, there's no reason to think they can't do it again this year and win the Scudetto.
They keep on rolling.
And we keep on rolling as well. Leaning Tower, Pisa saw its opener. Pisa lost 1-0 to Roma. Sule scored in this one. He also had a goal pulled back, but Roma off to a good start. 2 1-0 wins. Atalanta ball not quite there quite yet for Gasperini, but I think they're going to get better. But I mean, you can't start the season better than that. 2 for 2.
Quick note here, Evan Ferguson again played 73 minutes. Dovbyk was really looking on the outs, but windows closed. He did not get shipped out. So we'll see what happens there. I didn't even think Ferguson had like a tremendous game. I thought he played decent, but I was like, get Dovbyk in a little bit earlier, in my opinion, see what he's got. But clearly we see the pecking order for Gasperini, although it was pretty widely known that he much rather prefers Ferguson than Dovbyk.
The funny thing about Ferguson here is, and I've been following Milan Twitter, obviously the last couple of days, just being that it was the end of the transfer deadline here. But when we were still in the race for a striker, I forgot who posted this, and I'll have to find it and shout you out. But it was a tweet of a video of there's the highlights from Evan Ferguson's first game for Roma, and he was like, Milan, where do we find a guy like this? Why can we not be in conversation with a guy like this? Roma, no one was talking about Evan Ferguson before that first game. We knew he was talented, but the highlight is basically he drops in, gets the ball. If there's no one on his back, he's able to turn and dribble very consistently, drives the ball forward. He can lay it off. He's a perfect target man. He helps him build up. He's very, very quick, direct, wants to score. I mean, he's an all-around great striker. I think that people are going to take very kindly to his presence in Serie A this season. And so just keep an eye out as to why Dovbyk's not playing over him right now.
Question for you guys real quick. Second game under Gasperini, same exact lineup. Dybala comes in a little bit earlier. What do we think about Dybala under Gasperini? Because we know Gasperini demands run all over the pitch, man-to-man defense. Dybala's probably not going to do that. I mean, he'll do it sometimes, but he's not going to do it for 90 minutes. Doesn't probably have the legs to do it anymore. Do we see Dybala being a super sub now? Are we going to see Dybala ever for 90 minutes, you think, under Gasperini? What are your thoughts?
I'm happy you said this because I was really thinking about this because I was kind of back to the point, like, why isn't Dybala playing? How do you get him in the team versus Sule in the team? And I think it comes down to 2 things. Gasperini is not a 1-year, 2-year manager. He is looking at this as like a 6, 7, 8-year project that he is going to be the man at. And Sule is one of those guys that is going to be with him the entire time. So that I think he has a bias to play Sule over Dybala there. And I think the other thing is Dybala gets hurt. And if you're super subbing him, you are reducing the chances of him getting hurt. So I don't think it's the wrong thing to do. And then number 2, you're not forcing one of them to play left wing where they neither of them really are effective over there because it's not what they want to do. And you just brought in Leon Bailey, you have El Shaarawy, and they're going to kind of control that side of the field. So I think it's going to be Sule pretty much every game of the season unless he gets hurt in my mind.
Vos, you say he's a 6 to 7 year manager, which
he's old.
We don't really have a huge sample size. Obviously, he was at Atalanta for ages, but yes, he's playing Sule, who also had a couple of starts for the most part last year. But this is the second game in a row to start the season. No Baldanzi, no Pizzili. So is he really here to develop the younger guys like we know he can?
Yeah, but I think that is a portion of the reason Cristante's in there is he's the guy that made Cristante. So it's like I have 100% trust in this guy to play a position that I know is really hard to play in my system. So we're going to stick with him because I know he can do it. I know he's going to get it done. He pretty much gives the same performance every week. So I think it's a little bit different there. Yeah, that's my thought on the Cristante one.
Like that Darun spot.
Yeah, exactly.
Low ceiling type deal. Sure. We'll see.
Any thoughts on Sule? You just completely ignored Motz's question.
What was Motz's question?
And moving on.
Oh my God, Lowe's. Last game that happened, these are two teams that I love. Fiorentina went to Torino. Torino really needed a bounce back game. This one ended 0-0, but I do think there were some storylines. From a Torino perspective, we saw more of the Verona midfield in a midfield three. Aslani had his debut. Ilic had his first debut of the season, and Cesare Casadei. They kind of played as twin eights with the number 6. It did look a lot better. They probably could have won this game. And then from a Fiorentina perspective, just classic Pioli here. Like, no idea what they're trying to achieve. Have good players on the field in their preferred positions, but just a lot of the ball and zero offense. That's kind of Pioli, and can't teach an old dog new tricks kind of thing.
De Gea, two great games from the goalies here.
Yeah,
De Gea had a great game.
Yeah.
And also just wanted to shout out Torino's new goalie, Franco Israel. He had a good game. Maybe it's just Torino pumps him out. Maybe Vanya's really not that good. Who knows?
No. He missed the first week against Inter. He was absolutely.
I mean, that's not just that's defending. That there's a whole lot of different things going on there.
He was horrid. But what I want to talk about here on the Pioli side is he had a lot of players that could really grab the game by themselves. I don't think that this Fiorentina team is there yet in terms of can they go out there and make a game of it by themselves. They need structure. Just given I know we're one more season into it, but like we talked about last year, it was kind of a hodgepodge, like a bunch of rejects from other teams that were really trying to prove themselves, which they certainly did. But I think that here, this one's going to be a little bit more of a challenge for Pioli just because I know Moise Keane's been around, but you look at the other guys that they brought in, especially Goodmanson and some guys in the midfield, I think they need a little bit more direction, which I'm not sure Pioli has in his back pocket. He will get into the locker room and pat him on the back and say it's okay, they drew, but I think that if they're going to challenge for that next step being Europa League or even top 4, which I don't think they're looking like a top 4 team at this point, they're going to need a little bit more tactical advice from the manager.
It's also a ginormous change from Palladino, who has a style of play. He has his parameters, which he wants players to play. There's always something to do. Pioli is very much a man manager. Just go out there and do your best, guys. Like you guys are professional soccer players. You know how to play. Just go play. And that can be lacking offense if you don't have a specific system or style of play in kind of dogfights like this game.
What I am surprised about is he got away from his 4-2-3-1. I was shocked when it was not a 4-2-3-1 in this game. That's just classic Pioli ball. But we'll see what happens there.
Watched it for far too long.
But guys, we got a new segment we're adding this week. I guess we're going to keep it rolling for the entire season. We're all picking a guy out for a player of the week. We're going to start with Mats.
Yep, I covered mine a little bit earlier in the episode. Mine player of the week was Luka Modric. I think the only reason why Milan got 3 points was because of Luka Modric. He was all over the pitch. He had the ball at all times. He was facilitating. He was creating opportunities. A little less passes than Rovella, but he had 54 accurate passes. He had 4 key passes. He had 1 assist. He was also doing it defensively. So for an older guy, being able to cover ground, he had a clearance, he had an interception, he had a tackle, he dribbled by people. So great game. He kept Milan in the game. He kind of, I like to say, when you're winning, take the sting out of the game. But this one was opposite. He was the reason why they were allowed to be in the game at all times. It was literally just pass the ball to Modric and let him do stuff because he knows how to win a soccer game and how to play. So listen, if Allegri plays him 90 minutes and he's on the pitch, like Milan is going to be tough to beat because he is so good and can control a game. And you really saw it last week. So Luka Modric is my player.
Close.
Wait, look, do you want to go? I got a dog bark.
I'll take it. Yeah, I think that when you put a shift in with 3 goal contributions, you should be getting a shout out. I know that Ravella had an absolute performance, but Tati Castellanos, especially with the assist that he had to Zaccagni, he's got to be the player of the week. 3 goal contributions, 1 game. I know Verona is absolute dog shit, but it was a great performance by him. Lazio does this all the time, flash in the pan one week and they're horrible the next, but this was the one where they were on, and Castellanos was a huge driver of that. So player of the week, Tati Castellanos.
Love it. And to wrap
Shout
it
out
up,
NYCFC.
yeah, sure, good point. And to wrap it up, I have Santi Castro from Bologna. He's kind of one of my players to watch for the entire season. Just 2 games in here, I think he looks a lot better than he did last year. More complete player. He was the guy that was leading the Bologna press. He didn't start in Matchweek 1, like I said. He came in off the bench and has really just shown why he should be playing. In the first game against Roma, he had a bunch of shots on goal. And in this one, again, he was the guy that was running the hard miles. He had the assist to Orsolini, and I just think he's a player to watch. He's kind of reminding me a little bit of like Luis Suarez in a way, like very similar movement. I think good at similar things. I think he's somebody to watch this year. I think it's a big one for him. But that's our player of the week. We also have one special segment this week. There's a couple players that made it. We're not going to do this every week. It's going to be very specific situations. But Mats, you got 2 guys for us giving out another award here.
Yes, this award that you'll see from time and time again when it's required is the Stunad of the week. 2 guys, we have co-Stunads of the week because we couldn't decide a winner. The first one came on, when did Milan play? Friday?
Lecce. Friday,
Yeah,
Lecce.
it came on Friday, and it is none other than Santi Jimenez, who scored a goal, good finish, good play, ended up being offsides, but before it was called offsides, he ran over to get none only than his teammate's Jashari's jersey because he broke his fibula in practice and then was called offsides. Absolutely hilarious to try to honor the player that you injured for 3 to 9 months with his jersey, and you're just offside. So it was called back.
Santi, I just want to point that out. I was not supportive of this nomination this week. I love you. You're going to be great this season.
He also missed a one-on-one.
Keep on keeping
that
on.
was not offsides and just missed the net completely. That was not good.
Yeah, that one wasn't good either. But not to be outdone by Moise Kean from Fiorentina, who I believe it was Robert Gosens had a header. It got over the goalie. I do think the goalie got a slight touch to it. But that ball was 100% going in, and you have a classic striker trying to pad his stats, get a goal, and he tried to head it in, and he launched it over the crossbar. It was literally in the net. I'm not sure how it happened. If you haven't seen it, go back and look, because Moise Kean was doing his best Torino center back impersonation there. So those 2 are the Stunads of the week. We have this week in week 2, Moise Kean and Santi Jimenez.
Yeah, Moise Kean with 0.97 XG
ball
on that
was
shot
literally
out of 1.
in the net. Like, I don't know how he hit it over the net. Like, it could not have been closer to being inside of the goal when he touched it.
I mean, it was almost an anomaly because he didn't actually move his head. It just bounced off of his face, like his noggin, because like he didn't need to do much with it, but it literally went to the moon.
Yeah, it
went to the moon.
It made no sense.
Soccer
well,
game of inches.
That's it with us, guys. That was Matchweek number 2. We're going into an international break now. So next week, we're going to be dropping our table predictions. Now, the transfer window is closed. Couldn't think of it. And we're going to try to hop on to a couple other quick segments, talking international break with the Azzurri, a little bit of transfers, but we'll be back soon. You'll see us, as always.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Paisans. If you're still listening, really appreciate it. Like I said in the beginning of the episode, you know where to find us. Comment, subscribe on all the socials at Calcio Culture FC, X, YouTube, Instagram, TikTok. We'll have some good content coming out. A couple of shorter episodes going to be on YouTube. Let us know how you guys like it. And you can always find us on Spotify and Apple Pods. 5 stars, por favor. Mats, take us away.
This is a great episode. Very sad that we have the international break coming up. Little hiatus from Calcio, even though it just came back. Very frustrating. I feel like they should kind of take a look at that, maybe change it up, allow like maybe 4 to 5 games before they go to international break. But that's okay because we got a taste, and we will be back with more Paisanos, thank you for listening. And as always, do not be a gagoots, and Forza Calcio Culture.